Welcome to another episode of Chrysalis Satori, where we explore the European lifestyle versus the American lifestyle. Wes and I moved to Europe several years ago. We became friends over here. We decided to start a channel talking about this stuff. So today we're going to go into a question we get all the time. Basically, it's what's the difference between living in the U.S. and living in Europe? And there's quite a few. It took a little bit of adjusting for us, but I think we've got a pretty good list down here to kind of talk about today. So we will get into that. Wes, how are you today, my friend?
Doing good, Paul. How about you, man?
Always great to see you, man. I'm doing great, doing wonderful. So, man, let's talk about the adjustment we had coming into a strange new world where we didn't speak the language. We luckily they speak a lot of English here, but there's an adjustment period. I will say it took a little while for me to get used to it. I mean, gone are the days of where you can just go to Walmart and find everything in that one place. Like here, everything is very separate and very specialized. But after you get used to it, it's kind of nice, and actually you get better quality stuff as far as food goes in most cases. But what are your thoughts on this, man?
Yeah. Well, what you alluded to on that reminds me of, well, for me, growing up when I did before big box stores. So, back home in a small town before the Walmarts of the world showed up, you had what you just referred to as specialized, shopping or stores. So, yeah, back then you would have 5, 7, who knows how many stops, right? You'd go to a butcher, you go to a bread maker, you go to a department store, but generally for clothing, not necessarily just for everything. Maybe there was also a hair salon in it for your mother, if it was a nice one, and a toy store for you to kill time while she got her hair done, something like that. But all that evaporated, quickly through the 90s, to where now you've seen that over and over in lots of documentaries where there's just these dead downtowns. There's these, areas that are just vacant and unused where all these specialty smaller stores were. And, maybe you find a tax accountant there or, maybe a gym, maybe, probably not. Even those are big. Even those are big box now, right?
If we're lucky, yeah. It took me a little while to get used to not having everything in one place. I remember when I first moved here, I needed to find a mop, and I didn't know how to say mop in Albanian, and there's no word like if you say mop, they have no idea what you're talking about. They're called a stoop here. So, but I had to go to like 4 different places to find a stoop, and it took me a while to get used to that kind of stuff. Where I'm used to going to Walmart and there's everything's there, or Target or something like that, and that just doesn't exist here. Everything's much smaller stores, much more specialized. They do have malls and stuff here, but they're mostly centered around clothes and shoes and stuff. But
that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, they really don't have and there's a nice mall here. Toptani is a nice mall, and there's one called Tag, Tirana Eastgate. But it's a big store, but again, it's mostly the same kind of stores, like just clothing stores pretty much, and a food court. Everything's much smaller here and much more isolated as far as what you can get. Like it's very hard to find a store that has everything.
It's small and isolated within the store itself. However, within the city, I mean, it's store upon store upon store upon store. I mean, they're all jam packed in every block, right? There's 30 of these varying types of stores all right next to you. So that's so for me, I appreciated the shopping experience like I did as in my youth. I appreciated coming back to that because I enjoyed that. However, to your point, still, yeah, there's an adjustment period as to figuring out which products are in which stores.
And where do you get what? That's the hardest part to find. Like, and I mean, finding a light bulb sometimes could be a all day affair for some weird reason. Like it's just something that you have to go through. But
well, here and specifically in Albania, they don't embrace things like Google Maps and ratings and reviews as much, or hardly at all. So you might think, well, why don't you just go out and look for that? It's not on there. You can look, but it's not on there. The information's outdated if it was ever there at all.
Yeah.
And they don't have the details. Even then, so maybe you find the name of the store, but you're probably going to rely on an expat group, say like in Facebook groups or something like that, you're going to rely on asking questions to an audience of people already here to find what you need.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, every expat meet we used to go to, that was the main question. Like, well, where do I get this? Where do I find this? And um, it's nonstop, nonstop. So once you learn your way around, once you get past that 2 month or 3 month period or whatever of kind of just adjusting,
Free.
get in, yeah, then you're
Yeah.
fine. You'll be fine. But it's like America used to be, maybe in the 70s, I would guess, maybe even the 60s.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
you know,
70s. Yeah.
there's a baker, there's a butcher, there's a seafood or seafood place where you buy fresh fish and such. Uh, but it's all these little separate entities in each little neighborhood. So they have like these little borough neighborhoods all
Mhm.
throughout town, and everybody lives in one of these little boroughs. Kind of like New York, I guess, would be, but it's much smaller, much smaller. And you just kind of find what you need. You go every day. The bread is going to go bad in 2 days. It's not like U.S. bread
Oh,
where
come on. It's more like five,
maybe
But when
5.
you say bad, it's not even bad. It didn't grow mold. It's just you can
Right.
use it as for skeet shooting. It's just
Yeah.
hard.
It's a brick after a few days. But yeah, I mean, I literally go down every day and I buy bread. Like, I'll go to the baker and buy bread, eat it that day. And it's kind of a nice routine. Like, I enjoy it because it's
I do
walkable.
too.
So you're
I do
not,
too.
it's much more outdoors here. That's one of the big things to get used to too. Like, there's not everything in Louisiana was indoor because it was always hot. So you went from your house to your car, air conditioning there. Then you went to the location, air conditioning there, and you were always inside of something. And very rare occasions, if the weather was nice, you'd sit maybe in a patio somewhere. But here,
And
it's
at most,
every
this might
every
be
day.
just something you did once a week for what you just explained too.
If you're lucky, yeah, if you're lucky. But here, like, literally every day, everybody's outside. Like,
It's
all
an
the
everyday
restaurants,
experience.
they're
You
all
shop for what you need as you
patios.
need it, a day at a time. Yeah.
Right. It's very different because I don't go buy $500 worth of groceries here and store them all in
Nope.
my house. I
There
just
is
keep
no
them.
storage.
Yeah, there kind of is none. So you're kind of like, it's a daily little routine that you go through. I kind of enjoy. I've gotten really to where it's part of my day. It's like, it's just kind of nice. Gives you something to do.
It is your day. So for me, I enjoy it very much. It is, so let's just focus in on just the whole shopping experience and the gives and the gots of it, right? The pros and the
Mhm.
cons. And I don't even know if I can say cons, they're just different, right? So a lot of these things I find beneficial. The benefits are smaller amounts every day. The fact that it is a single store for a more specialized, they tend to, they do the job better. Things that we complain about in America, right? You don't get
Mhm.
something that's so distilled, watered down, um, it's just bread, which, in America, bread is sugar loaf. It's not bread. It has like no health or nutritional value, right, whatsoever. The bread
Very
here
true.
is, real, the black bread. It's full of health, and yeah, you need to buy it like once a week. Um, but so you're getting the pedestrian experience.
Mhm.
You don't need a car. You only buy a couple of shopping bags worth of what you need, and yes, you take your own bag, and best way I can suggest doing it, taking a reusable bag with you, a couple of
Yeah,
those. You're only buying what you need a day at a time, and the good side of that is it's super fresh and healthy, right?
it
That's a
truly is.
lot better. This is why nothing really here is, it's not about canned. So much of America and American food is prepackaged, canned a lot. Even when you're talking about cooking, it comes out of a can. That's
Mhm.
not how it is here. You're talking about fresh everything, produce, fish. So it's coming out better. It tastes better. I mean, and not just better. We're talking night and day. Like completely different, better, and not just in flavor, texture. If you can imagine something that's been canned or stored or pre-prepared versus just fresh in its raw form. Um, so you've got a lot of really things that we complain about. You've got those benefits here just de facto. It's not really a choice. It's just how it is. And we are talking about Albania right now. There are some other generalizations that does apply a lot to my experience in Eastern Europe, but right now we're just focused on like the Albanian experience here in the capital. Um, so you buy less at a time. It doesn't cost as much, also because it's a specialized store. Overall,
Yeah.
quality's higher, quantity's better. and again, we're focusing on food right now, just that food, water, wine. Now, on the flip side there, the water is not necessarily safe to drink out of the tap. So all the water you are consuming here in the city is, uh, you're buying it in plastic, unfortunately. So, you're buying that's one thing you buy, once or twice a week is a couple of 10-liter or,
Yeah,
jugs
the
of water, right, for
big
the house
jugs.
to eat with, to cook with, to clean with,
Yeah,
to brush your teeth with.
coffee. Yeah,
Um,
I use the tap
right.
water to brush my teeth. I admit that. So,
I had to give it up. I did in the beginning, but it always came back to bite me. So I don't rinse my brush or my mouth out with it. I had to quit.
gotcha. Yeah,
I must have
that's
a more sensitive stomach than you.
that's a carryover from Mexico, I think.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
which will catch you sometimes, eating out as well. So you want a nice, which they make great salads. You want a nice salad somewhere else. You got to realize that's been washed in the tap water. So if you
I
have a
did. I have.
sensitivity to certain things,
Yeah,
that
I've
might
gotten
get you there too.
stuck with the salads a couple of times. Yeah, you get Giardia, which is Giardia lamblia. It's a little protozoa that's in the water here. It's very common throughout the world. It gives you the runs for a couple of days, and then you get over it. But I think I've had that twice in the
If
past
you have a
time.
better tolerance, if you don't have a
Yeah,
tolerance, then you need an antibiotic for 5 days,
yeah, yeah,
which is inexpensive and over the counter. So it's not like you have to make a trip to the
yeah,
doctor.
yeah.
So
You don't
again,
even need
another
a
difference,
prescription.
right?
Hmm.
You don't have the same health system, and when I say system, I don't mean that it. You have pharmacies on every corner, and the pharmacies have more of a doctor level representative there, right? Sometimes even if you went in to ask for something and you think you know what you want, they still might question you, in the terms
Yeah,
of why do you think you need this and so on. They're trying to consult more with you.
right.
But you can get everything over the counter, and again, very inexpensive. So
Hmm.
certainly compared to the states, there's no game there. That's kind of what I meant by healthcare system. Sorry,
Yeah,
they have more health care than health insurance. America has health insurance, Europe has health care,
yeah,
uh, even in
yeah.
the poor places like here.
It wasn't usual going to the pharmacy for the first time, and I'm like, they become like your little mini doctor. Like, what are your symptoms? And you're like, I have this, and then like, okay, do this, and that's whatever it is. It could be antibiotics, anything we normally consider you need a prescription for. Here, they just don't have it.
Oh,
And then,
absolutely. Yeah, and
yeah,
some things are funny too. Like, I've had people ask, so I've asked, for them, and yeah, sure enough, you can like Xanax and
hmm,
things you wouldn't necessarily imagine to be. Yeah, they're completely just over the counter. No prescription required for,
yeah,
well, nothing that I've asked for either for myself or anyone else so far.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
interesting.
Which is
Uh,
nice, which is saves you a lot of time and money and effort and
mhm.
such
Just
for
not a
needing.
game. Yeah, you don't have
Yeah,
to go to the doctor to get what you already know you need. Already know
right.
what you need. You've had it before. I just need to go get that, right? And
Yeah,
so no
100%.
no refills, none of that nonsense, right? No feeing you to death all the way through it and taking up your
Yeah,
entire day.
yeah.
Um,
That was
but you
good.
do have to be mindful of the operating hours. So there are pharmacies and there are day and night pharmacies. So, a day and night are going to keep more hours than a regular pharmacy. But even on certain holidays, even those close maybe for a more limited period of time. So some things you kind of have to get used to the local culture as far as their operating hours. It's not America in that it's 24/7. Absolutely
Mhm.
not.
Right.
Nothing
Yeah.
here is.
No, there's you could typically around 10 o'clock at night, most restaurants close, most except for the bars. But yeah, it's not a 24-hour world here for sure.
Mm.
Maybe
Sunday, a lot of things are open limited hours or not at all.
not at all. Yeah, a lot of them aren't. So it's definitely an old America feel is what it kind of feels like,
Mhm.
which is kind
You
of
can
nice.
expect less business hours or representation during the summer months because everyone's going to the beach.
Yep. They'll take randomly, like in the middle of August, they'll take like a half a month off, and they'll go to the beach. So your favorite store might be closed for 2 or 3 weeks, so you got to stock up on stuff if you want from there. But that kind of lends into the pharmacy and healthcare kind of lends into another thing that you and I talk about a great deal, which is the food quality here.
Mm, mm,
Um, Having a life with no preservatives in almost anything that you eat, and having the food being freshly grown here and cooked here, and like
Freshly
bread.
made that day, maybe
Yeah,
immediately while you waited for it.
yeah, right away. So like to me, that is a huge deal. One thing I noticed when I first got here, I didn't change my eating habits. I didn't change anything at all, and I would eat pizzas, burgers, whatever that they made here, but I couldn't keep any weight on.
Yeah, it just
I,
drops.
it was just normal. Your whatever your fighting weight is, your natural weight is, you will become it here because the food quality is so good.
Well, and you
Um,
eat less overall too because you're nourished quicker. So you don't need the same volume or quantity of food to feel satiated.
right, and you're not ingesting a ton of sugar. Like they don't sugar everything
Oh
like we
yeah.
do in
Yeah.
America,
No.
and there's no preservatives. So like you buy bread, it'll go bad a few days, but you tend to eat it. And if you even like in U.S. they're telling you cut out bread, cut out this, cut out that. Here they eat bread with everything. I eat bread every day, and it's like
And pasta.
and
Yeah.
pasta, all these carbs, and it doesn't affect me at all. It's been really nice, and um, I just didn't understand the quality of food. And being from Louisiana, food is a way of life for us. So like it was a huge deal to not have crawfish and all these things that I kind of missed. But the flip side, I'm not living this inflamed, uh, you know, just swollen life of of obesity, I guess,
That
in
is
the
the right
US.
word. Inflame. Yeah, the inflammation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really that was a startling difference, man. I didn't, and I mean, but you pair that with being outside more, you pair that with walking everywhere, so you're getting a good dose of the daily exercise, whether you want to or not, and the better quality of food. Without, I mean, even the ingredients on like Fanta, you look at the ingredients here and look at the ingredients in the U.S. and they're completely different. Here, they require a certain amount of juice to call it a juice drink.
And
So
that's Europe wide. That's not Albania specific. Yeah, it's
that's
got to be
Europe.
at least 15% juice
Yeah,
to refer to any fruit
yeah.
in the beverage, right?
So if you look at like Fanta in the U.S. looks like Mountain Dew. It's like a fluorescent orange. Here it looks like a natural orange color. I mean, it does have sugar and such, but there's no preservatives in there. It's like it's a
And
very
a lot of
different.
that is more fructose than necessarily refined sugar too, because of the juice
Uh,
percentage that's required. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's definitely like that was a shocking. That's one of the most shocking things I experienced when I first moved here was the quality of the food. I had no idea would be that much better for you as far as just a general without changing your eating habits at all. Like I didn't change anything.
And
I
some
would
of mine
literally eat a
changed
whole
kind of
pizza.
to your point, just because I like them better. Like in America, I don't eat yogurt. I don't like yogurt in America. I don't enjoy
Yeah,
yogurt here. Yogurts and everything, it's completely different. I'm not saying it's subtly better or subtly different. It is completely different and it's
yeah,
in everything. So I take in a lot of yogurt now and I'm not like just
mhm,
directly, it's all the sauces and, if they can substitute milk or cream or panna with yogurt, they will.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just in everything.
and it's so much better. It's a Greek yogurt too, so it's like it's just better for you all around. And they do, yeah. I had a Caesar sauce, a Caesar salad sauce, and they used a yogurt base for it. You could tell it wasn't like a mayo base or whatever it is in the U.S. And it was so much lighter. It was fluffier, but it was really good and
Yeah.
healthier all around. But what are some of the other things you think that are way different from the U.S.?
Oh, we can go on about food and nutrition a long time, pluses and
Yeah,
minuses, and why that's the case. Like you said, none of the inflammation, that mystery 10 pounds that Americans always talk about, I think that's just solely the body retaining fluids because it's
yeah,
treating the body treats anything. It doesn't. We don't even need to label it as like the flavorings or the food colorings or the additives and the
yeah.
preservatives without even getting into that. Just
It's a
anything the body
huge.
identifies as foreign is treated as a toxin and immediately stored in and as fat.
Mhm.
So the more natural, pure, and raw what goes in, you just don't even go through that process. So I think a lot of that is the weight that we just effortlessly drop and effortlessly keep off. Which, by the way, yeah, it does come back when I visit. If I visit, I'm probably there a good couple of months, maybe longer, if I go back to the States to visit my parents and my immediate family from them.
You start
Um,
swelling up, huh?
yeah, it not. So the first time I went back, yeah, I had that very much. I swole up. I felt my pants tighten. I had to go up like a belt loop. I felt it. And you feel that, also fatigue and lack of focus and energy that comes with that as well.
Hmm.
And that's because it had been so long since I went back. I, indulged, I enjoyed in a lot of things that I used to eat, went to a lot of places I used to go and that sort of thing. Since going back after that first trip, I don't even try. I don't even try to eat out in America. I don't eat anything pre-made, even out of a grocery store or anywhere like that. I make everything. I still shop the same way there that I do here. I only go out either daily or every few days and just go get only as much as I need. You break that
Hmm.
shopping habit of America of like buying ahead or hoarding or three and get a discount and that thing. I
Yeah.
only buy what I need, so it's only as much as I'm going to need till I run out. I only buy when I need it now, not prevent it, not ahead of time so that I don't run out or so that it's there. So what I'm buying is fresher, usually just for that reason alone. I
Hmm.
cook everything. Some things I had to bring back too, interesting enough, like the size and quality of the something that's a simple beans. And when you think of beans, you're going to think of American, canned. And I'm not talking about anything prepared, right? So actual just dried beans. I actually brought a bunch of them back with me on my trips, and I boil and make those there because the beans we have there are just pellet sized, and the beans they have here is like each one is as big as your thumb.
Yeah.
So night and day different in the taste, the flavor, the quality, and
All the,
all of
all,
that.
all the all the GMOs. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can just go on and on and on about food. There's just so much to dig
It's
into.
it's a lot. Yeah.
Dairy, like America, you've got to go buy bread. What does every American buy in an emergency? Bread. The things that expire the quickest: bread, milk. And here, even the milk, situation is different. It's not
Yeah.
refrigerated. It's in a carton that's sealed,
Hmm.
um, and it's shelf stable. It's not refrigerated. And it's shelf stable for. I'm going to
Months.
misspeak here. Months. We'll just go with months. I want to say longer than that, but we'll go with months. And
Yeah.
then you open it and you can refrigerate it, and it's thicker. It's not watered down.
Hmm.
Quite wonderful.
Yeah.
Again, this
The taste is much better. Like I
the
didn't I
things I
didn't
didn't
drink.
really partake in or enjoy in America would be bread, milk, yogurt,
Yeah.
coffee. I did not enjoy coffee in America. I mean, even though I did go through some phases and I bought some imports and some nicer coffees, still just I have espresso every day here. It's just night and day, completely not comparatively the same at all, just completely
Hmm.
different. Enjoy it. And you're talking about getting, what do they call it? A Fredo Express. So that's like just an iced espresso. And that's with nothing in it. You can add your own sugar or, whatever, but that's just an iced espresso.
Yeah.
And that's $1.50. Well, downstairs for me, it's $1.50. Now at another place across town, it's 80 cents. But,
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
take the convenience for the price, right?
Location, buddy.
Yeah. Food, just on and on and on. Storage, quantity, quality, price. I mean, yeah. So when I go to a local market, literally outside of my building, just across the street, there's like you might call it like a farmer's market back in America, but there's just these little markets and they're just sprinkled all throughout the city. Every corner has
Hmm.
one or two. And, I buy everything I want and need to cook: spinach, tomatoes, lemons, limes, whatever and you learn to also buy and eat seasonally here. Like you were saying, you were used to having crawfish and other things. You can get some things here, but they're going to be seasonal, right? So
Yeah.
there is,
100%.
and that's not just fruits and vegetables. That can be something like seafood. So mussels,
Hmm.
as an example, there's a mussels,
Yeah.
season, and again, they compare to nothing I've had in the States. They're so much larger, firmer, sweeter.
They're much better.
And you can even notice here, if you get them off season, they don't compare to in season, are just fantastic, right? So you learn to enjoy and buy seasonally more. Again, kind of like I did in childhood. So some of that I really welcomed.
Yeah. Hmm.
But like you said, there is a learning, curve to that. And of course, you got to like and want these things. If you like the big box experience and go in once a month to get everything, that's not going to happen here. You just don't even have the
No,
option.
this doesn't exist, not at all. And I mean, and that carries over into like, so everything is not as large as America because you don't drive anywhere. So you do live more compactly, like apartments, especially in the city. If you go to the villages and such, you can get in a bigger house with land and property. But for the most part, everybody lives in Toronto, lives in an apartment, one to three bedroom range kind of thing. So you are in a little bit close quarters. It is a more New York feel than I mean, I grew up in a small town, so we
Or
have
let's
big
just say
property,
urban, very urban, highly densely urban.
but it is
I
densely
don't know.
urban.
I don't know about New York. Yeah.
Yeah, so you will know your neighbors. You will hear horns and such going around. You kind of get used to it after a while. Just I guess it's like the price of living in a in a convenient area where you don't need a car. That's kind of the price you pay for that. But
Well, this is not
oh,
country living. This is a dense urban experience, which was new
yeah,
for me too. Like a lot of things
yeah,
that at one time I was incorrectly associating to living here in this country was also just the difference of living in a dense urban environment, which I never
uh,
had before. Not long term, I'd been in and out, but like for
yeah.
years at a time in something so dense. Have I lived in cities before? Oh, yeah, absolutely, but not something so dense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. So yeah, there's a lot of people walking when you go out, and so it is a little bit of dodgeball that you have to weave in out of people. Something for some reason the Albanians
We're like playing
they
chicken. Yeah.
they never want to move. They always want to keep walking straight, and so either you have to move or you bump it straight into them, and then you're like, you move on.
And that's a great example of one that's like, was I, is it that they're Albanian or is it just the circumstances of a dense urban life
I'm not
that I
sure.
chose not to experience, like New York? I chose not to ever experience that. So
Yeah,
maybe it's just the circumstances and not the ethnicity or the nationality.
but on the flip side of that, I mean, even in the close quarters, it does give you a lot to do. There's always something going on in the city. They always have like they have a big square where, especially during Christmas, it's
Yes.
absolutely beautiful. Like they deck the whole city out with lights. Um, they always have something going on, like some sort of event, whether it be a little race car thing or I don't know. Like there's always something going on. It seems like, which I love because I can just walk down the street, go see something new, that you haven't seen before. You get bored, or whatever, and then just come home. And it's a nice little routine. Like you do your shopping. You go. Me and Wes tend to go sit at coffee shops, whatever. We'll have chit chats. That's a whole other thing too. The coffee lifestyle here is
Social
very
life. Yeah.
yeah.
Social life is very rich.
You're
Yeah.
always out doing something with someone. So
And
it's
that's
just
Europe as a whole, right? That's not even just
mhm,
Albania. It's Europe. So yeah, the vast differences between American living and European living is that in European living as a whole, your domicile, the place that you sleep, that's just where you eat, sleep, shower. That's it. Very, very minimal home life.
mhm,
99% of what you're doing is outside of that space in a common space with other people in a very social and relaxed environment. So it's not like you sit down and you need to buy something to sit there or you need to keep buying something you're being run off. Not at all. You can sit there, buy nothing or buy a
a
50, 80 cent
water.
water and sit there for 4 hours and use the Wi-Fi and, conversate with 4 or 5 other people coming and going just all day, every place, everywhere.
Yeah,
European is a very social, Europe's a very social experience compared to the States.
it's something
Um,
I miss, and I think it used to be communities in the U.S. and small towns were like that, but I think that's just kind of going the way of the dodo, man. Like it's just it doesn't. I mean, in Covington, they're trying to hold on to it in my hometown. Um,
mm,
they'll have
nice.
little block parties every weekend or every Friday for a few months, like 6 months a year or something like that. But more and more I see that doesn't exist in the rest of the country. Wes was showing me his hometown, and he's like, "There's nothing there. It's just barren. There's no cars. There's no cars in the parking lot." I'm like, "Well, this is where you grew up." And he's like, "Yep." It's like so it's different. The U.S. is changing, and I think it's becoming something that
Well, everything in the U.S. is everything's individualism, right? And so the whole king is his castle sort of thing, or their castle,
mhm,
and everything is home based. Everything you do is in the home, at the home. Europeans
yeah,
comment on that. They say that in all the movies, and everything is, and that's the opposite here. You have very little space or individualism or privacy in kind of that way,
yeah,
that room between each other that doesn't exist. So it's
yeah,
much more communal, much more social. So everything you do is out somewhere else. And you might think, well, like if we did that in America, it's cost prohibitive. But again, all the dynamics are completely different. Everything
yeah,
you need to live in Europe overall, and I'm saying this in a broad stroke, of course, is the things that you truly need to live. So food, medicine, health, lifestyle. It is very inexpensive and a bit higher quality than
mhm,
compared to the US. Whereas in contrast, everything that you don't need, so consumer goods largely, all the electronics and all the extras that we kind of identify ourselves with or get the latest of, or how we indulge and get our dopamine hits. Those things are poor in quality, usually out of China,
Hmm.
and very expensive, especially if you were to compare, quality to price point to America to
Yeah.
here. There's a vast difference. Can you still get quality things here? Yes, but they're not as available and very, very, very expensive.
Yeah.
But everything that you do need that attributes to your health, social, mental, physical health,
Much cheaper here.
inexpensive or free to a large degree,
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah.
You have
Very
to
much.
create and pay for a social experience in America. That comes gratis here. Just
Yeah.
walk outside your door.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. In the last few minutes of our episode today, what are some things you had on your list that you wanted to go over?
Oh, it's like we can keep going on another episode just about
Oh,
food
we
and
probably
health,
could.
right? Mental health. Yeah, we could go to a whole nother episode of that. But some
Yeah.
of the dynamics, like we're talking about, goods, quality of goods, price points, what it takes to get them, travel, and just, well, travel in general. So it's highly pedestrian and what the differences are there. Because sometimes when you say these things, if you haven't been outside of America, it's hard to really kind of picture,
Hmm.
convey, imagine this in your own mind, how vastly different things are. Like, how would you do that? You don't realize how different it really is. So rail systems, if they're available, and they are largely most of Europe, versus driving and some of the conveniences that come with that. It's not
Yeah.
the hassle that it is of flying. You don't have the same security and checkpoints, and thus impact, and control, having to be so strategic about what you pack and how you pack it. You don't have to do that, right? It's the same as a road trip or just a drive in your
Yeah.
car. The driving experience itself, if you do get a car, there's less abundance of gas stations, well, highways for that matter, right? There's less highways altogether, less
Hmm.
optional routes, and you have to plan for that more accordingly than you do in the States. You're not going to find the same number of gas stations just quickly everywhere. So you have to plan for that in your trip. But also the gas station experience is much nicer. It's more than a gas station. It's usually a full restaurant, maybe a hotel. It's a very nice, and again, another social experience. You gas up the car and you sit down for
Yeah.
an hour and stretch your
Yeah.
legs and talk, and have an espresso, cappuccino, a full meal, pizza. Very nice. Again, fresh food, not some package. We're not talking about the convenience store you're picturing in your mind in America, or the gas station experience. That just doesn't exist here that way. So even driving, just that whole experience is different. But then you also have things like, well, in a very short amount of time, you might be crossing national borders. So your passport and maybe a quick check, right? Things that don't exist in America because it is the
Hmm.
United, States. Um, Flying itself, much less expensive over here than the States. Very inexpensive
Much.
short flights to other worlds and other countries.
Yeah.
Also, even then, the travel experience in flying is considerably different here. You don't have the same, depending on the airport, you don't have the same amount of security constraints and time burdens, security related, when leaving for another country, and you may have little to zero customs experience when exiting the airport.
100%.
Uh, we can get down into products themselves, paper products, as an example, just really are kind of don't exist in Europe, or at least not really great. Some countries, your toilet paper might resemble something from the 70s that was a paper hand towel that you got out of your high school bathroom, right? It's that brown, rough, diamond pleated. that might be
Sandpaper. Yeah.
that might be the toilet paper, things like that you got to prepare for. Don't look for salad dressing. Doesn't exist. Europeans as a whole are not going to buy something that they can make themselves. So it's all oil and vinegar and lemon juice and just something you do yourself anyway. So don't, if you go to a grocery store and look for the dressing aisle, probably isn't one to begin
That's
with.
all wonderful insights, my friend. All wonderful. Well, that is our time for today, boys and girls. We're going to pick this up again on the next episode. We'll probably have a nice continuation because there's a lot to talk about on this. But
A lot.
I definitely appreciate you coming by today, buddy. And until next time,
Thanks, Paul.
make sure you like and subscribe, boys and girls.
Like and subscribe, please. Thank you.
We'll see you soon.